say that, even though there might be delays within your house buying process, that is not meaning to say that this house isn't for you. I do believe in, delays are meant to happen for a reason. So we didn't move in before Christmas, and I'm actually so glad now that we didn't, because we would have been so stressed. The house would have been a mess. Nothing would have been painted. We would have had to deep clean it. Like, there's just loads of things that would have been annoying to deal with around the Christmas period. So welcome back to the Home Stretch podcast. Today's episode is all about the home buyer's timeline. And, I feel like this is quite an important episode if you haven't gone through the process before and you're a little bit unsure as to like how long things take, when you should kind of be chasing, and just get a general feel on the moving parts within the house buying process. Because when I first started, I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I feel like the only thing that friends and family was telling me about the process was that solicitors could be really long. That was literally it. Apart from that, we went through everything ourselves for the first time. So I wanted to do an episode because I feel like the number one question any first-time buyer wants to know is, how long does the process take? And it's quite a difficult question to answer, to be honest with you. Every situation is going to be totally different. There'll be someone that moves in 6 weeks compared to someone moves in a year. And then they say the average is 4 to 6 months, but a lot of people go over that, a lot of people go under that. So what really is the average? There's so many delays that can crop up as well in terms of like the house buying process. It really is just, you're going to have to go through it and experience it yourself and hope that you get the outcome that you want. Now, generally, the consensus with the house buying process is that it can be quite stressful. And I do slightly think this comes down to expectations. If in your mind you think that you're going to move in 3 months, but it ends up taking you 6.5, like me, I'm pointing to myself right now, it's going to make you feel more stressed and a bit more frustrated that it's not working out how you thought it was going to. So if you go into the process thinking that the average is 4 to 6 months, so if it takes 6 months, that's fine. If it takes 4 months, that's fine. And if it's any earlier, even better, then you're going to be in a better mind space, because I definitely wasn't. I thought we was going to be in 3 months, in before Christmas, and that didn't happen. So don't be like me, just have expectations. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because that's probably the one thing that was really frustrating for me, was how long it actually took. But I'll go through kind of our delays as well. But I also wanted to go through each stage of the house buying process from start to finish. I am going to go over it in quite general terms, because if I went into it in detail, I would be here all day, and I don't want this to go on for hours and hours and hours. So I'll go through each stage in, quite simple terms, quite fairly quickly, but also to give you a general idea of the timeline of events that happens when you go through the house buying process. Because when you go through it for the first time, it's very overwhelming. You don't have a handbook. No one tells you exactly what happens. You kind of go in it very blindly. And I wish that there was an episode like this that I could have listened to way back in the day when we were going through the process. So hopefully you'll feel more confident and you'll understand a little bit more about the actual details of the house buying process and how long things should actually take. But I will sprinkle in a few tips and advice on what helped us in terms of chasing, when to chase and things like that. So hopefully you don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. So let's dive straight into today's episode, and we'll start with the big picture when it comes to timelines and the house buying process as a first-time buyer. Now, like I said before, the average right now is between 4 and 6 months. Now, that might change in months or years to come. Right now, we're near the end of September 2025. So right now, they're saying the average is 4 to 6 months, and it could be less or it could be more than that. This is also from offer accepted on the house that you're buying to completion. So when you actually get the keys in your hand, there's a lot of things that goes on in between both of these things. And I will dive into that today. But just to let you know, there could be delays in any part of the whole house buying process. And that's what makes it so complex and so stressful sometimes. And there's a few different reasons why it can vary, right? It can depend if you've got a long chain. So that means if there's loads of buyers and sellers within different properties, not just you and not just the sellers, if that kind of makes sense. You could have 7 people in the chain, and that means there's 7 houses here to be sold and bought. Like sold and bought? Bought and sold. Yeah, bought and sold. So there could be loads of people in the chain, but it could be shorter. The less people that are in a chain, the better, because you got more people to rely on, the more people that's in the chain. If you're in no chain and it's just you and the sellers, then that's great. There shouldn't be too much of a delay. And hopefully it should only take like 3 months, give or take. My friend didn't have a chain on either side and she moved in within 6 weeks. So that just goes to show that it is possible to move in very, very quick. And then I also have another friend who I think she was in a chain actually, but she moved in within like 8 to 9 months, but that was like not a lot of chasing. That was kind of like just letting the solicitors kind of do their thing. And sometimes when you do that, it can lead to more delays because the solicitors then sit back and relax as well. We don't want that. We want the keys to our house as quickly as possible. So another reason why there could be delays with the property is there could be land registry issues. There could be a delay in the local council search. So I actually did a video previously explaining about searches and solicitor searches. So definitely go back to that and listen to that because I do go into detail about the things you get back from your searches. And one of them is a local council search. So that's the longest part of the searches from your solicitors. And yeah, that can take quite a while to come back to you, depending on the council. You know, you could have a council that's really quick or a council that it's just been known to be quite slow. So that could have an effect also on how long it takes for you to move into your house. And I just want to caveat and say that, you know, even though there might be delays within your house buying process, that is not meaning to say that this house isn't for you. I do believe in, you know, delays are meant to happen for a reason. So we didn't move in before Christmas, and I'm actually so glad now that we didn't, because we would have been so stressed. The house would have been a mess. Nothing would have been painted. We would have had to deep clean it. Like there's just loads of things that would have been annoying to deal with around the Christmas period. So looking back now in hindsight, it was actually the best thing that could have happened to us. So this is your sign that if you are going through house delays at the moment, or you will have house delays in the future, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the house. It doesn't mean that the house isn't for you or you're not meant to have it. It just means that that's not the time right now for you to get those keys and move in. It might mean that you're supposed to have a bit more money. It might mean that you're supposed to buy a few more bits for the house before you actually move in. So let's dive straight into the step-by-step timeline of the whole house buying process. And I'm going to try and not bore you to death because there's a lot of moving parts with the house buying process and a lot of things that went wrong for us that I will kind of slide in there when we get to those certain parts. So step number 1 is your offer gets accepted. So you've been viewing houses, you've found the perfect house, you have put in an offer, you've negotiated the price a little bit, and your offer's been accepted. Your house buying journey has just begun. You are now in the house buying process. Get ready, buckle up, because it might be a bit of a crazy ride. So now, you know, this is can be quite a quick thing. When you get into negotiations after you put forward an offer, it can get accepted quite quickly. I think we put in our offer for this house on Saturday, and the offer got accepted on Tuesday. So from Tuesday, we were trying to sort out our solicitor, let our mortgage advisor know that, you know, the offer's been accepted. Can we start the process of the mortgage offer? Yeah, things move really quick, but when your offer gets accepted, that's the real start of your house buying process. Ideally, the estate agents that are selling the home should take your house off the market and at least say that it's sold or sold under confirmed price or something like that. There's a few other things that it can say on there, but hopefully they now say that it's been sold and it's off the market, so no one else can kind of come in with counter offers, or I can offer more, that sort of thing. And also during this time, you're going to be instructing your solicitor. So like I said, our offer got accepted on the Tuesday, and literally the same day we emailed our solicitor and said, offer's been accepted, it's for this amount of money, this is the address, can we now instruct you to start the searches on this house? So that was fine. We didn't have to do too much more other than get him the details of our estate agents. I didn't say not our estate agents, the seller's estate agents, and then they can liaise and, try and speed the process up. So a funny story for that though is that our solicitor then told us on the same day that he's about to go on paternity leave for 6 weeks or 3 weeks. It might have been 3 weeks. And he'd said to us, when I come back, it was 6 weeks. He said, when I come back, you should be more or less halfway through the process. So, like looking forward to it type thing. So in our minds, our expectation is now we should be halfway through the process when he comes back. I will say now, just real quick, that we hadn't even properly started. When he came back, he was like, why hasn't anything been done? Anyways, so that's all about expectations for you. Quite a good tip within this kind of time when your offer is accepted and you're instructing your solicitor is to start gathering information that is going to be needed for this section. So things like proof of deposit, your IDs, your employment information. So like your income, your bank statements, maybe not so much your bank statements right now, but you will, and no, I think you do, because when you go through like the mortgage application and stuff, you do need your bank statements for that. So yeah, gathering that information, you'll need it for your solicitors and also your mortgage advisor. The one thing that we had to do with the estate agents was actually go into the store and show our ID. So we had to do that just to make sure that they knew we were the people that were buying the house type thing. But other than that, we had nothing else to do with the estate agents, which was great because they were so rude to us. So the best thing to do is just get these things sorted, get your ducks in a row. So when things do get asked, they're literally there and you're not like running around trying to find your ID or that sort of thing. Number 2 is mortgage application and offer. Now, in my previous episode, I did go into mortgage offer in detail. So definitely go back and listen and watch that if you want more information on the mortgage offer. This may be step 2. However, before this, you would have probably had, a chat with your mortgage advisor to make sure that you can afford this home. And we did this before we started viewing houses because I think it's good to know how much roughly you'll be able to borrow, because you don't want to be viewing a house that you absolutely love. You put an offer in, and then when you do actually go through the mortgage process, you can't actually technically afford it. So I do think seeing a mortgage advisor before you start viewing houses, doing affordability checks, understanding your credit score a little bit to make sure that, it's going to be probably accepted. You want to basically get a mortgage in principle, which is a temporary offer from a lender to say that you'll probably be accepted with us. That isn't to say that you will. That's just a temporary, possibly, you'll be probably accepted with us. So we did that before we were viewing houses. So then when we did have our offer accepted, we were probably more likely to have our mortgage offer approved. I hope that kind of makes sense. You don't have to have a mortgage in principle, but, as first-time buyers, you can say that in your offer to like the house. You can say, we've got a mortgage in principle for blah, blah, blah. We can afford this house. Please accept our offer of £300,000 or something like that. It's just, I think it's good to have, and, it's a good negotiation thing to talk about. So your offer's been accepted. Now your mortgage advisor is going through the mortgage application. This is when they're going to be uploading all the documents, and I think ours did this in the same day, and we got our letter of confirmation and mortgage offer about 3 days after. So it was really, really quick. Obviously, some lenders might be slower, some might be faster, but we went with Halifax and they were amazing. So yeah, definitely look at different lenders. Obviously, you'll want to look at how much you'll be paying back, the interest rates and that sort of thing. But for us at the time, Halifax was the best, so we went with them. So yeah, your mortgage offer should come back fairly quickly. If it's been a good couple weeks, I would definitely chase your mortgage advisor or chase the lender if you're going with them directly, because it shouldn't really take any longer than a couple weeks. So yeah, if that is the case, then definitely do chase to be like, what's going on? What's the update on this? So next up, we have the searches. Now, again, in my previous episode, I went into details with the searches. And these are basically a multitude of different searches that your solicitor will do. This will have some things to do with maybe planning permissions that's going on in your area, your water and drainage stuff. So if you're sharing it with your neighbours, and yeah, local council searches and things like that. You'll get all of this from your solicitor, but this will take the longest time. Now, the average is about 2 to 6 weeks, and it will depend on a few things. It will depend on the local council. Are they quick? Are they not? Some councils are quicker than others. So that's just something you'll have to bear in mind. You might get it back in 2 weeks. You might get it back in 6. I think ours realistically took like maybe 3 to 4 weeks altogether. However, we did have a very long delay with our contract pack. So basically, when your offer gets accepted, the seller's solicitor should start the process of gathering items for the contract pack. Now, this is basically an initial documentation that the seller's solicitor will give to your solicitor, and it will outline things to do with the property, things that the sellers might be leaving behind for the buyers, and that sort of thing. And usually this should take a few weeks to get to your solicitors. If it's any longer, then start chasing. Start chasing the estate agents and say, we haven't had the contract pack. What is the crack? What's going on? Because we left ours for 5 weeks. And when we eventually chased, because our solicitor was on paternity leave, there was someone that came in, just filled in for him in the meantime. He wasn't chasing anything because why would he? He's not really working for us. He's coming in for a few weeks and then leaving. So the 5 weeks came around and we thought, we should definitely have this contract pack by now. What's going on? And we called the estate agents and said, what's going on? We haven't got the contract pack. And they said, you should definitely have that by now. We'll chase the seller's solicitor, see what's going on. The same day, the temporary solicitors for us received the contract pack on the same day that we chased. So that just goes to show that chasing is important, guys. It really is. Don't be afraid to chase early is like the main thing that I will say with that. So the contract pack came, and then as it did arrive, then our actual solicitors came back from paternity leave, and then he said to us, you guys have been in the process for 6 weeks now and nothing has happened because the contract pack has only been given to me now. So I'm only going to start your searches now. And we were like, oh, brilliant, amazing. So luckily, after that point, the searches came back within 3.5 weeks altogether. And searches will come back in different drips and drabs. So the environmental search, the water and drainage search, they'll usually come through quite quickly. I think for us, it was between 1 and 2 weeks. And we thought, all of our searches are back. Great. No. Your local council search is like the main bulk of the searches, and that's the one that takes the most time. You'll only get all your searches back when your solicitor says, I've got all your searches back. So just wait for them to say that. And yeah, hopefully it's not on the upper end of how long it says it takes, because it can be quite a while. But one tip I will say is ask your solicitor. This is one thing we didn't do as well, by the way. Ask your solicitor for the local area that your house, like the house that you're buying, is in. Is the council quite long? Like, are they usually quite quick? Are they usually quite slow? Because I feel like your solicitor will probably know the answers to that. They'll, have worked with them before and gained information from them before. So they'll probably have an idea on if they're like really slow or really quick. So yeah, I think a tip for that moment in time would be ask your solicitor if they're slow or if they're quick. Kind of wish we did that because ours did take quite a long time. So the searches are underway. Next is survey. Now, again, I spoke about this in my previous episode. A survey is something that is your responsibility as a buyer. You don't have to have a survey done, but I do think personally, I would recommend people getting a survey, because why wouldn't you want to get information about the house you're buying before you just go out, get a mortgage on it, and then something happens when it could have been pulled up in a survey? I think just surveys are great. It's called a home buyer survey, and they're done in England. don't know if they're done in the whole of the UK, but definitely in England. And there's different levels, level 1, 2, and 3. I won't go into detail, but level 2 is the most common one, which is basically about £600, give or take. And an inspector will basically come to the house and inspect the property for things like damp, damage on the outside, and just really detailed stuff about the structure of the property. And yeah, I obviously think it's worth it. We gained like a 90-page booklet about details of the house. So it was very, very good. And this is something that you do independently. So you outsource a local surveyor in that area. And that's what we did. We got a few quotes, we looked at reviews, and we went with the person that we thought was the best. And we actually did this personally quite early in the process. So the second our offer got approved, should have really spoke about this earlier, but the second our offer got approved, we went ahead and booked it straight away. So within 3 weeks, our survey had been done. We've had the results. We've sent it to our solicitor, because you got to think, right? You need to be proactive as well. If there's delays later in your process, you're not going to want to be the one that's holding things up because you didn't get a survey quick enough. So just do it early and get it done, get it ticked off if that's what you want to do. And then you don't have to worry about it. And then at least you're being proactive and you can get along with the process and just hope that no one else is going to be delaying it. So next up, number 5 is inquiries and legal work. Now, this bit can take a long time as well. For us, I mean, altogether, it probably took 4 months. Now, this is because it's not just the inquiries from our solicitor to the seller's solicitor. It was also inquiries from the seller's solicitor to the property developer's solicitor, because our sellers were buying a new build. Basically, the inquiry stage is the chance where solicitors up and down the chain will be able to ask questions, get more information about things that they're unsure of in the documents they've been sent about the property. Basically, the solicitor is there to help you. They want you to have a smooth process, a clean house with no legal things hidden and tucked away. They want to make sure that you're going to be okay in the process. So they're going to dig deep and they're going to ask a lot of questions. So be prepared for bouncing backwards and forwards from solicitors. And this is where chasing comes in handy, okay? Because if it's your solicitor that there's an inquiry left outstanding, the seller's solicitor will be chasing for that inquiry, potentially. Usually it's the buyer's solicitor that is chasing the seller's solicitor if you've got no chain, right? So that's what happened with us a lot. The seller's solicitor missed out on so many inquiries. One, she missed out on like for 5.5 weeks. And eventually when she did answer it, she said, "Oh, sorry, I missed this." Totally missed the inquiry for like 5.5 weeks. It was wild. And then when our searches were done, inquiries were fine, our solicitor was happy, we had everything back, then there was loads of issues with the sellers moving into a new build. So we basically waited for 3 whole months for the seller's solicitor and the new build solicitor going backwards and forwards. So we're done. Our solicitor, seller's solicitor, we're all finished. Now the inquiries were here. But for some strange reason, the seller's solicitor had only just started asking for the inquiries when we've all finished. So it took another like 3 months. Now, there was issues with the property developer. I won't go into detail and bore you, but they were missing really, really, really important documents, build zone warranty and buildings regulation certificate. Very important things if you're buying a new build, by the way. My biggest tip from us going through this process is ask your solicitor to get these documents early. Now, you can only get them when the property is build complete, but the seller's new build was build complete July last year. And the seller's solicitor was only asking for these documents in November last year, which I just don't understand. I feel like she was just sitting back and not really doing much for ages, but anyway, she did her job and she asked the good questions and she really put her foot down, because we were in contact with the sellers a lot at this point. And, they were filling us in on issues happening with the new build, well, the property developer really, and property developer's solicitor. Eventually, everything got like rolled out, everything was fine, and then we all managed to successfully exchange complete on both properties. But the inquiry stage, a lot of the bottleneck can come down to this stage because you might have someone that's missed an inquiry, like our situation. There's going to be a lot of chasing, there's going to be a lot of questions. You have to be quite patient. So this is after the searches stage, by the way. So you've got the searches stage and then the inquiry stage. So there's a lot of waiting, a lot of chasing, a lot of not knowing where you stand or what things are going on. My best advice is to just keep in contact with your solicitor mostly, maybe weekly updates to say, are you left with anything outstanding, blah, blah, blah. And then if that is the case, you can then do some chasing yourself if you want to be a bit more proactive like we were, and call the estate agents and say, why is the seller solicitor not answering this query? It's been 5 weeks. Please find out what's going on. We want this to move quickly. So you can chase yourself. We were in contact with the sellers, so we knew exactly what was going on. If there was issues with our solicitor, we would let them know, and then vice versa. So the estate agents were basically just an extra push for the seller's solicitor to get things done, which it did help because things got done the same day, which is like, okay, chasing really does work. But yeah, I think all in all, for our personal experience, the inquiry stage was the most frustrating because you can't do anything about it and you just have to sit there and wait and chase when you can, but that's kind of all you can do. And it can feel quite deflated and annoying. Number 6 is probably the most exciting part, is exchange of contracts. Now, this happens when you're very, very close to getting the keys to your brand new house. So if you find your solicitor is talking about exchanging on the house, be excited because this means the keys are in sight and the delays and everything has been worth it, I promise. So when you exchange contracts, you basically decide on a date. So everyone's searches has come back. Everyone's happy on all the chain, going up and going down, however many people are in the chain. Everything's ready to go. What will happen is all the solicitors will talk to each other and sellers and buyers, making sure that everyone's happy with a certain date of completion. Now, usually between exchange and completion is 1 week. So about 7 days, give or take. Same with us, same with a lot of people. Some people exchange and complete on the same day, which is crazy to me because that sounds like so much organization. But basically, when you exchange, that is when your deposit money's been sent and you're now basically legally binded to buying this property. If you pull out between exchange of contracts and completing on the property, you could probably lose your deposit. So be sure that when you send your deposit and you agree on exchange day that you want this house, because you do not want to be pulling out between these times at all. If the sellers pull out, then I think they're liable for giving you back the deposit because that's not your fault. But yeah, not many people pull out within this stage because it's so vital and the completion date is in sight, right? There's a very low chance of any kind of pull out or anything within this stage, but it does happen. So it's definitely something to be aware of. But basically, just real quick, exchange day basically includes a phone call with your solicitor. And all they say to you is, we're ready to exchange. Can I go over through some details with you? And they'll talk through your house price, your completion date, your mortgage overview. Like they'll basically go through the main parts of like everything to do with your house buying process and make sure you're still happy. And once you give them the confirmation, the go ahead, they literally say, congrats, we've exchanged. And that is it. That is literally it. So it's just a phone call. But it's a really exciting day because when you go through loads of challenges and loads of frustrations, it's like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and you now have to like pack, get ready, unless you're moving in exchange in the same day. That's crazy. But a nice week is a nice amount of time because the sellers usually have to have a moving van because they have to move all of their stuff. Luckily, I was living with my dad, so I didn't really have like loads of furniture and things. But if your house has got loads of furniture in it, you're going to need a moving van. They usually take about a week to organise, to be honest. So a week is usually about right. And finally, number 7 is completion day. And this, I cannot tell you how excited we was on completion day. It was so much fun. So basically, completion day is the day you get your keys. You will get a phone call from the estate agents or your solicitors at some point in the day to say your keys are ready for collection at the estate agent's office. Now, the timing of when you are able to collect the keys will depend on when the sellers move out of that property. And it will also depend on the chain, right? So if you're right at the bottom of the chain as first time buyers, people, let's say you've got 5 people in the chain, they have to move out, hand the keys back, 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 and then you're now ready to collect the keys. So usually the longer the chain, the longer time it will take for you to move in that day, but you will move in that day. So for us, I think we got the call at about 10:30 in the morning, or maybe even earlier than that, it might have been 10, and we were like, oh, that's quite early. We've got a half day today. We can't collect them to the afternoon. Is that okay? Yep, that's fine. And then all you do is you turn up at the estate agents, bring ID with you as well, because if you haven't shown them your ID before, they might ask for this. So don't have it at the bottom of a suitcase where you have to take loads of stuff out to get it. Just have it handy with you on completion day just in case. You probably won't need it, but I feel like you might get asked. And when we went in there, they said, oh, we've seen your ID before. That's all good. Here's the keys. And that's basically it. They'll say, oh, yeah, here's the keys. Goodbye. And that is it. Then you'll walk into your empty house and be like, oh my God, we've just bought our first home. It's crazy. So yeah, your funds are fully sent over, and that is basically completion day. You don't do anything else. Everything gets done in the background in terms of your mortgage, solicitors, or anything like that. You literally just get a call and you can get your keys. That is literally it. And I'm telling you now, it is the best day ever. So that is everything to do with the house buying process in a very, very short space of time. There is so much more detail I could go into, but I will be here all day, not even joking. And you have to remember when it comes to buying your first home that it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to try and enjoy the process. And I understand and know firsthand how stressful and annoying and long it can be and feel. But when you just have in your mind about getting those keys and try to enjoy the process in between, you will have such a better time with it. And I promise you, the second you get your keys, the stress of solicitors disappears. You have a new form of stress because it's more of like making the house nice, decorating, you're a bit tired, X, Y, and Z. So it is a different kind of stress, but it's so much nicer than not having to stress about solicitors and wondering why they haven't got back to you in weeks. So that is just like a little thing to say that the stress does go away. So just hang in there. And yeah, our process took 6.5 months altogether from offer accepted to picking up the keys. Yours might be quicker, yours might be longer, but hopefully it's within a time frame that you're expecting. Just handle your expectations and try to not make yourself deflated if it's not meeting your expectations of when you want to move it. So I hope you feel a bit more confident in knowing how long things take roughly and the sort of processes in between, because, you know, we had no idea what to expect when we bought our first home. And now that I know it, I'm like so scared to buy our second house one day because I feel like it's going to be even more stress because you're not just buying a home, you're now selling one. And that means you're putting yourself in the middle of a chain. And that does not sound like fun to me. So I'm really hoping we stay in this house for a very, very long time. I mean, we absolutely love this house and it was so worth the wait. So I think that's another thing. Like if you adore the house and you feel like it's supposed to be yours, it probably is. So just kind of hang in there and, you know, the stress will all be worth it, I promise you. So yeah, I hope you found that episode useful and helpful. And yeah, good luck with your house buying process. Hopefully it's not too long. Hopefully it's not too short. Hopefully it's just perfect. So thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you next time.